Hello there. I was kindly tagged by Freddie from Sluggish Reader to do this nice, socially conscious mask tag. So here we are. I'll leave a link to his video down below as well as the original tag video. And the aim is to list 3 books in which a character wears a mask. And if you can't find a book in which a character wears a mask, you're allowed to do something in which they're sort of, just concealing themselves or something about themselves. But I thought that'd be a bit too easy, so I really racked my brains to try and think of characters that had like masks or coverings in books that I really liked. Funnily enough, I talked in a recent video about a comic that I really liked called A Town Without Streets. And that's about a little town where suddenly, by necessity, all private space becomes communal, including like inside your house and so on. And so to deal with that, people start wearing masks as to compensate for the lack of privacy. And that's pretty creepy. But I'm not going to include that because I already talked about that one. So I'm going to think of new things. First of all, The Tiger's Bride, a short story by Angela Carter taken from her book The Bloody Chamber. The Bloody Chamber was written in 1979. So Angela Carter is like the OG of dark fairy tale retellings. If you have to describe her, then you'd use words like surrealism and sexuality and feminism and puppets. Like, she has a lot of puppets in her things. Bloody Chamber is fantastic. So if you're interested in fairy tale retellings from a feminist point of view, then definitely check that out if you haven't already. But one of the ones that left the strongest impact on me was The Tiger's Bride. Tiger's Bride? The Tiger's Bride. The Tiger's Bride is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and the character of the Beast is dressed as a man, and it's described in such a way as you get the feeling of it's some sort of monstrous beast like stuffed into the trappings of a man. Like, it's got like the clothes and nothing seems to fit right. It's got these gloves over its hands and like some tufts of hair maybe poking out. And of course it has the mask. It has a mask which has got like a man's face painted on. I'll read a little bit. Only from a distance would you think the beast not much different from any other man, although he wears a mask with a man's face painted most beautifully on it. Oh yes, a beautiful face, but one with too much formal symmetry of feature to be entirely human. One profile of his mask is the mirror image of the other, too perfect, uncanny. He is a carnival figure made of papier-mâché and crepe hair, and yet he has the devil's knack at cards. Oh yeah, and the first line of this story is absolutely brilliant. The first line is, "My father lost me to the beast at cards." What a great opener. And this is one of the highlights of the whole thing. I absolutely love this short story. Like, Angela Carter really gets into gender things, and it's not that kind of feminism where you sometimes have a very simplistic story of just, the patriarchal parts of fairy tales being overcome by a plucky girl, and then she goes off and she doesn't need a prince at the end and she's independent. It's like, there's nothing wrong with that story. It's a great story to tell kids. It's just pretty boring, right? Like, it doesn't get any of the intricacies of gender and sexuality and so on. And this story really does. Like, the beast himself isn't necessarily evil, even though he's, keeping her like an object in his castle or whatever. It's the mask itself, and you could even spell it mask with a C if you wanted to be clever, right? Because it's like masculinity, which is the menacing presence in this world, which sort of organizes things. Like, the girl has to be the property that's sold or like bought in or lost in a game of cards, and the man is the one who owns the castle but is sort of trapped in his own image of masculinity. And I don't know, it's just great. Just read it. It's really great. Angela Carter's stories are often about like self-discovery and like women discovering their bodies and themselves, as well as this sort of intricate social world that like controls them. And there's a sort of like liberating feeling in these stories. Also, like, it's sort of got a gothic feel to it. Like, she's really great at like creating unsettling imagery as well. Unsettling but kind of fun because it's familiar from like gothic stories. Anyway, I really recommend The Tiger's Bride. Next one is kind of cheating because I don't think the masks were actually in the story. So in the Odyssey, I think it's Circe that tells Odysseus and his crew who are lost and trying to get home, that the only person who can help them is Tiresias, the seer, the prophet. He can tell them what to do to get home. But the problem is he's dead. So they have to go to the land of the dead and do an elaborate ritual where they kind of like dig a hole, I think, or a trench, and fill it with blood, and then keep the dead off, like, who are all going to come and try and drink the blood until Tiresias gets there, and then let him drink the blood, and then he'll be able to tell them what to do, like, in exchange. I had this illustrated children's edition when I was a kid. The illustrator decided that the dead should all wear masks. So in the pictures of the book, you can see that, like, while they're trying to fend off the dead, there's all these like kind of shades which are just like crowding around them, and every single one of them is wearing a mask. And it was really spooky and just I think a stroke of genius to depict them that way. Also, it's like a mask, the type that's got like a stick, like the Venetian ones, so they all have to like hold up the mask in front of their face. So it adds like a kind of, you know, the fact that they are the ones who are holding it. It's not like they're stuck in the mask. It's like the fact that they all have to use one hand to hold up the mask makes it somehow even more eerie. I guess because it's like they're hiding themselves, or they're keeping up a barrier between the living and whatever they look like as dead. But anyway, of the whole Odyssey, when I was a kid, those images were the ones that really impacted me the most. So props to that illustrator. Also, like, if we were to do the concealing oneself thing, then the Odyssey is good because, like, Odysseus lies about who he is quite a lot. At least twice. Like, when he's, like, trapped by the Cyclops, he says that his name is Nobody. So then when the Cyclops is blinded and asks the other Cyclopes to come, I think it's Cyclopes, or Cyclopses. I think it's Cyclopes. Asked his friends to come and, like, help him. They say, "Who's hurting you?" And he says, "Nobody, nobody's hurting me." And then they're like, so what are you doing, you drunk idiot? And then of course at the end, and then also at the end, he is disguised by Athena as an old beggar to go when he goes back to his home, because all the suitors are there. And he still has the scar on his thigh through which his old nurse remembers him. But yeah, lots of disguises in the Odyssey. And then finally for the third one, there is Dune. Now, I had a lot of mixed feelings when I read Dune in the summer, but the thing that I like the most about it probably is the environmental stuff. Like, both like thematically, like the theme of environment is really important for the story, and also the descriptions. And on the planet Dune, the natives, the Fremen, have to wear something called a still suit, which includes a full face covering, and that's because of the heat and dryness of the planet. It's so arid that you won't survive in the desert for long without one. And the still suit is just like brilliant because it really like gives you a sense of what it's like in the desert. It includes, like, I forget what it's called, but like this water extractor, so that it recycles your body's water. Basically, like, all the water you excrete gets somehow recycled and made drinkable again, and there's like a little tube in the mask so you can keep drinking the water that's coming out of your own body. So it's pretty gross. And the characters, you know, like have the ones who are new to Arrakis, the ones who are new to the planet, have a hard time adjusting to that. But it's really great because, like, it, you know, it drives home how precious water is, and the suits are constantly described, you know, like the bit that you have to put in your mouth and how they have to fasten the mask to make sure that no sand or no air gets in. And yeah, it just gives you such a great sense of place and connecting, like, the concrete world that they're in, which is hot and unpleasant, to the sort of the big abstract themes of environmentalism and survival, like survival in a harsh environment. So yeah, the Fremen still suits, those were one of the best parts of Dune, and an interesting mask thing, more related to these ones, because they're about community and survival and all that stuff. So that was my very short video of 3 stories with masks in them that I like. I'd be really interested to hear other people's mask stories, because I really couldn't think of that many, to be honest. Like, the most famous ones, like Phantom of the Opera and Zorro and stuff, are stuff I haven't read. So yeah, like other famous masks in literature, please let me know. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!